Kharkiv in eastern Ukraine serves as the center of the Ukrainian book industry, and when Russia began raining bombs down on the city in February, many of its scrappy publishers were forced to pull up stakes and flee. But Galina Podolko is confident that they will return. Too much is at stake to stay away. We have one dream, to return to Kharkiv and continue our work in our hometown. And of course we all know that we will win. In our books, good always triumphs over evil, says Podolko, Chief Communications Officer at Vivat Publishing House. The book business has played a role in the clash between Ukraine and its larger neighbor to the north over the last decade. For many years, big Russian companies such as Ikazmo dominated the publishing business in Ukraine, and Ukrainian writing was considered something of an afterthought. British writer and translator Steve Kamarnke remembers visiting Ukraine during the Soviet era, and searching in vain for Ukrainian books to read. "I went into a bookshop," he recalls, "and there was a cordoned-off shelf with the words, Ukrainian literature, and the shelf was empty. I went up to the guy behind the checkout and said, 'Where's the Ukrainian books?' And he looked at me like he was baffled." But the 2013 invasion of Crimea unleashed a flood of Ukrainian writing, much of it dark and very political, according to writer Andrei Kurkov, who spoke at a recent forum sponsor. It also prompted a backlash against Russian publishers, who were accused of putting out books that amounted to little more than pro-Kremlin propaganda. Russian writers such as Alexander Dugin and Edward Limonov routinely sought to undermine the country's sovereignty, says Irina Baturovich, formerly with the Ukrainian Book Institute, a government agency. They wrote that Ukraine is full of Nazis. They wrote that Ukraine doesn't serve to be a separate country. It was really horrible, she says. In 2017, Ukraine barred the unauthorized distribution of books from Russia and required anyone importing books from the country to obtain a permit. Certain writers and publishing companies were banned altogether. While the ban was criticized by some human rights groups as censorship, the sidelining of Russian companies enabled Ukrainian publishers to flourish. The number of books published by Ukrainian companies rose by around half between 2016 and 2019, says Baturovich. "I was really bowled over with the quality of the work, the high production values, really interesting and quite different fiction and non-fiction.